Okay, it is 7 o'clock. I'd like to call our July 7th, 2025 regular board meeting to order. If everyone please stand for the American flag, followed by a moment of silent reflection. Pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Okay, that does move us on to roll call of the board members. I'll turn to Mrs. Roberts of the roll call, please.
Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister. Here. Mr. Hoffman.
Here.
Mrs. Johns. Here. Mr. Kimmer.
Here.
Mr. Smeltzer.
Here.
Okay, all board members are present. Thank you, Mrs. Roberts. Does move us on to 1.5 then, minutes from the June 23rd Records Commission meeting. Everyone had an opportunity to review those minutes. Been recommended to a motion to approve the minutes as attached.
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved by Mrs. Johns. Would there be a second? Second by Mr. Smeltzer. Question. I turn to Mrs. Roberts for the roll, please.
Mrs. Johns.
Yes.
Mr. Smeltzer.
Yes.
Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister.
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Kimmer.
Yes, motion passed, unanimous. 1.6, then minutes from the June 23rd regular meeting. There's a motion to approve those minutes as attached as well, and see the attachment.
Move to approve.
Okay, been moved by Mr. Hoffman. Would there be a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister. Question. Turn Mrs. Roberts for the roll call, please.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister.
Yes.
Mrs. Johns.
Yes.
Mr. Kimmer.
Yes.
Mr. Smeltzer.
Yes.
Motion passed, unanimous. 1.7, adjustments to the agenda. Any adjustments, Mr. Belvin?
None at this time.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, does move us into information discussion. We'll go to superintendent updates. Turn to Mr. Belleville, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Kimmer. Welcome to everybody. Hope everybody had a great holiday weekend. The agenda, you'll notice, fairly short, which is typical for our July meeting, unless there are any last-minute resignations or hirings with the July 10th deadline. It is, a relatively short agenda. So at this point, we are in good shape with our staff. We have between now and July 10th is the deadline, so you always kind of keep your fingers crossed that we don't have any last-minute spots to fill, but we'll keep a close eye on that. On the agenda, you will notice one major item there that really hard for me to recommend, and that is the notice of retirement for Christy Smith. Christy has expressed an interest in a retiree hire, so there is a process you have to go through to consider that, and this is kind of the first step of that. So we will have a public meeting on August 18th during our regular Board of Education meeting to discuss and consider the potential retiree hire of Ms. Smith. So we'll have a public notice that will go on our website either tomorrow or Wednesday, and publicly announcing that this evening that we would do that public meeting on August 18th during the Board of Education meeting. So something for us to consider and think about. I would certainly be in favor of that. So we'll work our way through that process as we go, but we'll also post that position and see where it takes us. So the rest of the agenda, pretty straightforward. There's one workshop, Amy LaCrone, with Elsie Sullivan retiring. Elsie used to be the only person that would attend the Info Ohio meetings. We're now having the aides at each library attend those meetings, so they're aware of the proper procedures for Info Ohio, checking in books, inventory of our books and those type of things. So each of our aides in the libraries will be attending that. We've already approved 2. Amy's the 3rd, and we'll have a 4th one come to the board at some point here, hopefully in August, for approval. And then the only other thing is a procurement for staff laptops, and if there are any questions when we get there, Mr. Schaffner can answer those questions as we go through. That is an anticipated purchase, something that we budgeted for, so should be pretty straightforward. So agenda is short and sweet this evening. Few maintenance updates. The parking lots are just about completely sealed. We had some weather delays. Vasco had a couple of equipment breakdowns during the course of the 2 weeks of trying to seal coat the lots, and the weather was the big thing. They can't seal coat if the lots are wet. So, and we went through a period there, the first week of dead period, where I think we had 4 straight days of some pretty good rains, and they tried to do as much as they could. And our track, one of the reasons we've always used Vasco is just the quality of work that we get from them. They started putting the first layer down on the track of the rejuvenation. They repaired some low spots in turn 3, repaired right around the long jump and start lines of the 100 meters and 200 meters. Did all those repairs, then started putting down the actual track surface over top of the repairs, and finished the long jump, high jump, and pole vault areas. Did an initial layer on the track, and whenever they went to go do the next layers, as they opened up the barrels that had the liquid that you spray onto the track to put they just didn't like the consistency of it, didn't feel like it was the quality that they wanted to see out of the product, so they closed the barrels back up, called the manufacturer, and ordered new product, and they were hopeful that they would get it in at the end of last week, but it just didn't make it in. It's supposed to be delivered this morning, and they on a separate job site, same thing happened. They opened up the barrels and didn't like the consistency, so they put a freeze on all their orders, and they are thoroughly inspecting before they move on. So delaying our track being finished for a couple days here. Extremely apologetic for the delays, but we also don't want to sacrifice quality. One of the things that's been really nice, you're supposed to rejuvenate these tracks about every 5 years. Maybe you get to 6 years, and we've been 6, getting ready to go into 7 years. So the fact that it was done in a high quality manner to begin with really bought us some time in that rejuvenation process. But the first layers that are down look really nice. The repairs look good, so we're really happy about that. But we're managing. We're back into, all of our athletes are back on campus as of today, so we had to work on some logistics on getting kids back to the weight room and practice fields, and where cross-country could train and some of that type of stuff, and still keep people out of certain areas while some work's going on. They'll be back to finish seal coating in front of the district office and around the track area in front of the concession stand once the track is finished, and they'll do that on a Saturday and Sunday just to limit disruptions during the week with all the workflow on campus. So continue to watch that. Both the high school and middle school gyms have been refinished, the floors, just our annual maintenance. They kind of scrubbed the top layer and put a new coat of sealant down, just so those surfaces are ready, with all of our PE classes in there, and basketball, volleyball, at the high school and middle school, dances and things. That those surfaces get worn down, so that's a yearly maintenance thing we do. So those projects are completed. Waxing is ahead of schedule in all 4 buildings. Most if not all of the classrooms are finished. Second floors, I think of all the buildings, are finished at this point. Now they're finishing up on the first floor, so that's progressing nicely. And the lighting project in the auditorium, most of the demolition work has been completed, and anticipate in the next week or so, lights being delivered and they'll be put up in the auditorium. And we're shooting for having that project wrapped up first weekend of August, and then we'll do a deep clean after all of the construction work. The sound baffles on the walls will be cleaned, all of the chairs in the auditorium will be cleaned, drapes will be mended in places and cleaned as well. So, after it, in my 9 years, that I don't think we've ever had the seats cleaned in the auditorium, or the baffles up on the walls. So it's time for that anyway, but after some construction, we knew that there would be a lot of dust and those type of things. So we want to get that area cleaned up and ready to go for the start of the school year as well. But we are on pace to have that project finished. Like I said, first weekend of August, if not then, be fully functional and ready to go by August 8th. So we'll keep you updated on that. Any questions on maintenance things happening around the district?
Is that happening interiorly, the cleaning, the deep cleaning is going to be done in-house?
No, well, not in the auditorium. Citywide will be brought in. They were recommended to us. We generally always do our carpet cleaning, bring in somebody from the outside to do the carpet cleaning. We don't have all of the equipment. You can rent that, so that's not a big deal, but just the manpower. We're usually right up to the deadline, getting all the waxing done and all that type of stuff. The deep cleaning of all of our other spaces outside of carpet cleaning, yes, we do everything in-house. So wiping down walls, painting walls, a lot of paintings happening across the buildings right now. Deep cleaning of desks and lockers and all that type of stuff, all that happens in-house. Any other questions? Good question. Any other questions on maintenance updates? All right. Legislative update, as we shared out with staff and board members, the budget bill was finally approved out of the House and Senate, signed by the governor. There are still some unknowns with the budget bill, especially as it focuses around finance. Some things weren't 100% spelled out in the law, so we're waiting for some clarification on some aspects, but just some recaps. The House that was sent to Governor DeWine, he did set a record this year for a number of vetoes. He had 67 line item vetoes, which was the most he's ever had. Directly related to schools, the cap on carryovers, the 40% cap, was vetoed by the governor. So as of right now, there is no cap on the carryover you can have in your general fund. The calculation of the 20 mil floor was vetoed. That removed some levies from being included in that 20 mil floor calculation. Partisan school board elections was vetoed by the governor. As a reminder, maybe for someone watching at home that was unaware of what was written into the budget bill, it would have required anyone wanting to run for a seat on a board of education to declare a political party and go through a primary before you could be on the ballot during a general election in November. School board elections in Ohio have, for the history of public schools, been nonpartisan elections, and that is done for a reason. If that had not been vetoed, there would have created conflict within the Ohio Revised Code, with board members being held responsible for declaring a party that violates other aspects of the Ohio Revised Code. So it would have definitely created a situation. Also, there's separate legislation that was recently passed that has forced schools and educators to take politics out of the classroom. And this would have been in direct conflict of that as well. So really glad to see that veto come through. And then some legislation on employee contributions to STRS, and STRS was also vetoed. So all of those things are kind of out there. Where do we go from here? The funding provisions of the budget bill went into effect immediately, but as I shared, there are still some unknowns there about several aspects of school funding. So I know Ms. Roberts can speak more to that. I know she has some meetings coming up later this week. Everyone's trying to sort through what is actually written into the budget bill, what was the spirit of what was written and what is actually legally required, or what, the dollars and cents will be. So, in the past 3 or 4 days, I heard from my state organization on July 3rd, heard different news reports today about how much schools are going to be compensated or rewarded for their report card. I've seen 3 different numbers as of this afternoon of what that dollar amount's going to be. So those are things we're still trying to nail down and figure out for sure. Once we have all that information, then we'll be able to give an update to the board on what our school funding will look like over the next 2 years in the state budget. The General Assembly is on break until September, which is slowing down some of the information that is available. But one of the things that I think is important to keep in mind is the vetoes that Governor DeWine issued can be overridden during any point over the next 2 years of the budget. The General Assembly can override a veto at any point. So it would take 3/5 vote. In the House, that's 60 votes, and in the Senate, that's 20 votes. If they can get that number of votes together, they can override any veto between now and December 31st of 2026. So one of the things that is being circulated in superintendent circles and we're heavy in discussion, and really it's just kind of wait and see until September when the General Assembly gets back into session, is we're going to be a little slow to react in anticipation of some potential overrides of those vetoes that Governor DeWine issued. And I do expect there to be some heavy debate, heavy conversation about a couple of overrides. So we'll kind of keep an eye on that and see what happens. I know a cap on the amount of money you can carry over in your general fund. Obviously, we had a long talk about that last board meeting. I can tell you that the House and Senate are both passionate about that topic. So I would expect there to be a lot of conversation coming September about trying to override the governor's veto, at least in that regard. So, but we'll see what happens over the next month or two, and just try to keep everyone updated best we can. Any questions on the budget bill? Okay. Professional Development Days, just want to kind of put this on everybody's calendar. It's hard to believe that we're already talking about the start of school, but I spent a good part of the day today working on the agenda for our back-to-school Professional Development Days. And our all-staff breakfast will be Tuesday, August 12th. That'll be 7:30 in the high school cafeteria. So Tuesday, August 12th, 7:30 a.m. in the high school cafeteria. If board members are available, we'd love to have you there. And that's always just a great day for all of us to get together, fellowship. There aren't many times throughout the school year where we have all staff members in one place at one time, to where we can have conversations and fellowship together. And so when we do have those days, obviously we enjoy that and try to take advantage of it. So just want to get that on your calendars as quickly as possible. Any questions? All right, that's all I have for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Belleville. Thank you for the superintendent updates. Appreciate the updates very much. So with that, Unless there's any questions with the updates with Mr. Belleville, with the updates, we'll move on then to the recognition of visitors.
No one signed in.
Okay. No one signed in recognition of visitors, so that will move us into the consent agenda section. 4.1, workshops and conferences. All board members can see that there is one there and that Mr. Belleville had made comment with, and so I just wanted to bring that again to our attention. So unless there's any thoughts, we'll move into, with that conference, we'll move on to 4.2. Okay? 4.2 then, financial items. I'll turn to Mrs. Robertson for those updates, please.
Thank you. 3 items this evening. The first is a donation of $200 from Jonah and Dale Myers for the Land Lab in memory of Charlie Eversole. So appreciative of that. I know we had a few last board meeting as well, so really happy to see those. We also have our year-end, our June financial and insurance recaps. So kicking off with the financial recap, for the total year, we received $30.2 million compared to $27.9 million last year. We were up 9% in taxes, up just under in property taxes, just under 5% in income taxes. We were up 11% in our state foundation payments. The biggest piece of that we increased in was in our restricted funding, and that is due to taking our entire district CEP and the free breakfast and free lunch. Interestingly enough, that is actually one of the areas in the new state budget that actually is being revised slightly. So right now we have just over 99%, there's always a little bit of a discrepancy of 99% of our students who are considered DPIA, since we took everybody free breakfast and free lunch. The way the new state budget is looking is actually only taking a percentage of those students and then taking a percentage of our students who are directly certified, meaning they don't have to go through the application process. So that a little bit of that is coming back in some of the potential decrease in state funding. The good news though is that it is still more than we would have received had we not gone CEP. So while that is pulled back some, it is still more than had we have stayed status quo and not taken advantage of the change in what some of those numbers. So, still happy that we did move in that direction for this past school year. But that is where that increase in the state foundation payments are coming in for the year. Other revenue is, we had a really good line item in other revenue. The majority of this increase is actually coming in from interest. I had anticipated that it would go down, slightly. We had a very strong June. In total, we were up $97,000 to last year, up 8%. So, the team has done a lot of really looking at our cash flow and working on making sure we have enough cash in the bank, but also having enough cash invested at all times and just managing our cash. And that being said, we were able to have strong interest this year. Our total expenditures for the year equaled equaled $41.5 million. This does include the transfers that we discussed last board meeting. So those are included in that expenditure number. That is why, compared to last year at $29 million, that is why it looks higher, because of those transfers. So when we're talking operating expenditures, we have, obviously our salaries, our benefits, our purchase services, and our supplies, and then we have transfers. So a big piece of that was the transfers. Not a lot of new news. We've talked about the increase in salaries. We've talked about the increase in benefits. So really, honestly, not a lot of new news in that area. We did end the year at $7.6 million compared to $17.5 million. I was originally forecasting that we would come in at about 16.9. So we were pretty much on track, other than just increasing those transfers, obviously based on the state budget conversation. So overall, each of our line items pretty much came in where we anticipated and where we forecasted, just the increase in those transfers, which obviously we will watch as we find out more information, and we will react accordingly when time appropriate. So, but any questions, since that is the year-end forecast or year-end financial recap? Okay. Moving over to insurance. Same thing here, not a lot of new news other than what we've been talking about month after month. When we look at our health insurance, our claims were up 20% for the year. However, we did end the year at $4.2 million in our medical fund balance. Obviously, really happy with that balance because we are using some of that balance to fund the premium increases for this coming school year. So happy that we're sitting at 4.2 million in order to be able to help offset some of that. Our dental insurance, overall, our expenditures were slightly up by 4% to last year. When we ended the year at just over $250,000 compared to $230,000 last year. So both, I'm really happy with where both of our insurance plans are sitting. Kind of trucking right along and really watching just what that means to insurance and just kind of watching as we progress through the summer. We always tend to see higher claims every summer, obviously because a lot of our staff are out, kids are out, trying to get all those appointments in, but that's the same that we see every year. So in a good spot, I think, with overall insurance, considering all things insurance right now and a lot of the unknowns. Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister, I did look into some of the questions that you had last board meeting about some of our liability insurance. And we're looking into that. I actually have another call with our liability insurance consultant. They're looking at some things to make sure that we don't have exclusions. I know you had mentioned on the liability side, so more to come on that. But I think we're in a good spot. I just wanted to double check a few areas, so wanted to make sure we followed up with those questions. That is all I had for the financial and insurance piece, unless there's any questions.
Okay. Well, Mrs. Roberts, thanks for the financial report and the insurance report, very informative, so appreciate that. And thanks for also remembering the follow-up question from Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister, so appreciate that. So, all right, if there's no questions, then we will move to 4.3, approval of the consent agenda. There's a motion to approve the consent agenda items recommended by the superintendent and treasurer.
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved by Mrs. Johns. I'll second that. Discussion. No discussion? Question. Turn to Mrs. Roberts for the roll, please.
Mrs. Johns.
Yes.
Mr. Kimmer.
Yes.
Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister.
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Smeltzer.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous. Okay, does move us then to the new business section. 5.1, resignation for retirement. There's a motion to approve the resignation for retirement of Christina Smith as administrative assistant, the superintendent, effective September 30th, 2025.
Vote no.
Okay. What an understatement to say what a wonderful person that Christina Smith, Mrs. Smith is, so appreciate her very much, so. But there is a motion on the floor.
So moved.
Been moved by Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister. Would there be a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Hoffman. Discussion. There's no discussion. Turn to question. Turn to Mrs. Roberts for the roll call, please.
Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister.
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mrs. Johns.
Yes.
Mr. Kimmer.
Yes.
Mr. Smeltzer.
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous. 5.2, personal service supplemental contracts. It is recommended a motion to approve personal service supplemental contracts as presented. You'll see the two that are in front of you there. Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Smeltzer. Would there be a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mrs. Johns. Any discussion? If not, turn to question. Turn to Mrs. Roberts for the roll call, please.
Mr. Smeltzer.
Yes.
Mrs. Johns.
Yes.
Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister.
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Kimmer.
Yes, motion passed unanimous. 5.3, the substitute teacher list. There is a motion to the substitute teacher list as presented. All board members do have that attachment in front of them.
So moved.
Been moved by Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister. I'll second that. Any discussion? If not, I'll turn to question. Turn to Mrs. Roberts for the roll call of the board members, please.
Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister.
Yes.
Mr. Kimmer.
Yes,
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mrs. Johns.
Yes.
Mr. Smeltzer.
Yes.
motion passed unanimous. 5.5, contract procurement checklist, staff.
5.4.
Oh, I'm
5.4.
sorry, thank you,
Yes, sir.
appreciate that. I did skip over 5.4, and I appreciate catching that. Substitute classified list, motion to the substitute classified list as presented. All board members have that attachment in front of them as well.
So moved.
Been moved by Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister, would there be a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Hoffman. Any discussion? If none, I'll turn to question. Turn to Mrs. Roberts for the roll call, please.
Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister.
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman.
Yes.
Mrs. Johns.
Yes.
Mr. Kimmer.
Yes,
Mr. Smeltzer.
Yes.
motion passed unanimous. Now 5.5, contract procurement checklist, staff laptops. It is recommended of a motion to approve the purchase of the classroom laptops at the cost of $80,000. Mr. Schaffner, any thoughts?
Yeah, so this is kind of a second round of staff laptops. If you remember, we bought the first round in March, I believe. My initial plan was to buy them next summer, the second round, but the budget started again, so I figured if we can get them now and potentially at a better price, now would be the time to do it. So I reached out to my Dell rep a couple weeks ago, and of course the model that I bought in March is no longer around. So they had a new model that came with a substantially higher price tag. So they said the initial quote came back at about $85,000. I was able to get them down to $80,000, which really is only maybe $20, $30 more per laptop than we paid in March. So I was happy with the price. They're going to have a 5-year warranty, so we should be good for the next 4 to 5 years on all the staff laptops. The previous laptops were bought in 2021, and in the world of technology in 2021, there was limited supply, so we kind of had to get what we could get. Or I guess Andy had to get what he could get. I wasn't here at the time, but those laptops are really starting to show their age. We're starting to experience a lot of issues with them. He bought a 3-year warranty on them, and we just completed year 4 with those. So hopefully these will be better, and we've got a 5-year warranty, so we should be good to go for the next 5 years.
Okay.
Question. How is it that Dell can undercut the pricing of the laptops versus these other 2 competitors that you provide? It's like double.
I'm not, honestly, I don't know. Dell's the manufacturer, so they have, markup and, all that stuff with other manufacturers. I have not been able to get anywhere close to the prices that Dell can, even with Chromebooks. I mean, when I buy Chromebooks direct from Dell, they're usually significantly cheaper than I can get from anyone else. And I don't know if it's just because they're the manufacturer and then they're directly selling the warranties too, so they're probably, able to cut those pretty low as well. Because there is a significant, I know from my time working at Best Buy, there's a significant markup on warranties. So when they're the ones doing the warranty, there's probably a lot of wiggle room there as well.
And so if something were to happen to the laptops and you go back to Dell and there's a
Yeah.
service department through Dell?
Yeah, so I can actually, we have a Tech Direct, I have a Tech Direct certification through Dell, so I can just go in and request parts if I know what the issue is. I do that a lot of times with Chromebooks. If the motherboard's bad, I can just go in, they'll overnight the part to me, and I can replace it and get it back to the student the next day. So we can do that, or we do have the option to send it in, and this is an accidental warranty as well. So if the screen breaks or something, they'll cover that as well. 1 repair per year per device. But hopefully no teachers are breaking their devices more than once. And previously with the laptops, I can only count maybe 2 or 3 that we even had to send in for accidental claims. So we should be good there.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Schaffner, for the comments, and Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister, thanks for the question as well. So appreciate any other thoughts, comments, maybe.
Well, not directly to the laptops, but just in general with software that's offered that these kids are learning on and how it's affecting, especially those who are going into the workforce. I just come across just in our area where I work, I noticed that a lot of students, these come with Chrome, right? So they use Google Docs and stuff like that. And I reached out to my former, but now she's at OSU alumni, and said, so what did you use during college? And she's like, Google Docs, and I'm like, well, it's hurting people when they go into the workforce. These students are not equipped with Excel, because especially the business world, they require you to have that experience in Microsoft Office experience. So she did inform me that, you know, like universities like OSU do offer students that package, but a lot of times the students just lean towards using Google Sheets and Google Docs. So I was wondering, and she said, and she informed me that it came from the high school level, just because this is what they're used to, is what a lot of students just rely on, Google Docs. I was wondering, is there any way that somehow down the road, because it really is hurting them not to have that technology know-how with Microsoft Office. And I mean, that's all the business world uses, especially the spreadsheets.
I have kind of started to look into, with my server consultants and stuff, moving away from physical servers, which in turn then would move us to cloud licensing through Microsoft. And I think if we do go that route, there would be Office 365 available for the students to use at that point, but that's kind of something a couple years down the road we're looking at.
We do have some students that are taking Microsoft Excel, Microsoft Word classes through CCP. So I've seen some of those coming through. But, you know, a big piece of it is the cost of licensing for us to bring Microsoft on board. So we have limited, we do have some presence of Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, PowerPoint in the district. So I don't know how widely kids are exposed to, but we do have some exposure here.
But even if there's an option of like offering a class, just as slide class, just in Microsoft Office, just because it's so
Yeah.
reliant.
I'm not for sure. I'd have to check with Ms. Swick what we offer in our business classes. Evan, do you know?
I don't believe there's any Excel or any of that stuff.
I know
There
if they
may be
used it.
online.
Some in those classes. I just don't know, but we can look into it.
Yeah, I just find it interesting. We hired this intern who has all the data, like, I mean, he comes from the data analytic. I mean, he graduating from OSU and he has no spreadsheet experience. And I'm like, what? You're coming from the computer. So that's what we were hoping is to have an intern. And it just, I mean, that's why I reached out to my daughter and just to see what was out there at university level, so.
Appreciate you raising the question, you know, for the conversation, that, you know, that there could be a need. And like you say, we've always been a school district that tries to stay ahead of the curve, so, yeah, appreciate the thought, the question that's out there. Yeah.
Funny because I've struggled using Google Docs because I'm used to Excel and Microsoft Word, so
Yes.
it's been a learning curve for me, and we use it a lot in the education world, so I'm just, everything I do is on Excel spreadsheets. I just don't like the other software, but it's interesting how that flips in generations.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good question. Appreciate you bringing the question to light and having the conversation, so. Appreciate that. Okay. If not, if there's not any more, we'll move towards a motion to approve the purchase of the classroom laptops at the cost of $80,000. Been moved by Mr. Smelter, I'll second that. Any further discussion? Now we'll turn to question. And roll call, Mrs. Roberts, please.
Mr. Smelter?
Yes.
Mr. Kimmer?
Yes.
Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mrs. Johns?
Yes.
Motion passed unanimous. Does move us into executive session then, 6.1, motion to adjourn into executive session in accordance with section 121.22 of the Ohio Revised Code. And there will be no action.
No action coming out, and we're going in for number 2, either the purchase of property for public purpose or the sale of property at competitive bidding. So that's what we'll be in executive session.
Executive session, okay.
So moved.
Okay, it's been moved by Mrs. Johns. Would there be a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Hoffman. Turn to question. Ms. Roberts, call the roll, please.
Mrs. Johns?
Yes.
Mr. Hoffman?
Yes.
Mrs. Conrad Zangmeister?
Yes.
Mr. Kimmer?
Yes.
Mr. Smelter?
Yes.
Motion passed. We are in executive session as of 7:41.